The KDKA Sports Desk is brought to you by Xfinity.
All right, Sports Desk tonight, we are talking about the Pittsburgh Penguins, who won today. Big game, sort of overshadowed here tonight with the Super Bowl going on in Washington to take on a Caps team that's in first place in the Metro. But the Penguins had a chance to pull within 4 points, and they did. Sidney Crosby has really had the better of the play against Ovechkin. Right off the bat, though, it is an even-strength goal by Lars Eller. Beats Matt Murray. Surprise starter by most accounts, but he played well. That one made it 1-0. Sam Lafferty, just recalled, 5 goals this season, all 5 on the road. And that's a shot that beats Samsonov. That makes it a 1-1 game. Penguins then scored. Patrick Hornquist. What else would you expect? In front, causing havoc, gets an ugly goal, but he'll take it. It's 2-1. Matt Murray really responded when he had to. Big saves on Ovechkin, on Oshie, and then you're going to see one coming up here on Tom Wilson. Power play, great opportunity in the slot, but he comes out, cuts the angle. 29 saves from Murray, who played his best, I think, late in the game. And then, how about the forecheck here by the Penguins top line? Dominic Simone to Crosby, back to Simone. He goes 5-hole to make it a 3-1 game. However, Tom Wilson got going, and he hit everything in the third period. And I think that really gate the Capitals back in this game. He nails Brandon Tanev right there, and Evgeny Kuznetsov comes away with a goal that looked like a little bit of a soft goal. It kind of fluttered around and got by Murray to make it a 3-2 game. But then late, it's Brandon Tanev who got one of his own off of Dmitry Orlov, just kind of trickles past Samsonov, and that made it 4-2. The final was 4-3. Really great atmosphere. And, Pony, when you think about winning in Washington, they have 4 games coming up against this team. Those are big points. And now they can set their sights on first place, even though at the end of the year, I always say it really doesn't matter because it's if you're healthy and playing well going into the playoffs. But still, that's a big win.
I think I like that they won 2 playoff kind of energy atmosphere games over the weekend, Bob. They did it with both goaltenders. First, Jari on Friday, then Murray. They were not the prettiest games. There were long stretches in both Friday night's game and today's game where Philadelphia or Washington controlled play, but the goaltenders made timely saves, and this is a complete team. And my message to Jim Rutherford, Bob, is let's not go extreme here. You know, you tweak this team, you add depth to this team, but I like their chemistry so much that I would not do something wild and crazy at the trade deadline.
So what would constitute wild and crazy? Because I still think they need another scorer to complement their top 6. They need somebody in tight games. And by the way, in this game today, another component I thought that was going to potentially hurt them is the physicality that we saw from Washington.
No doubt.
In a 7-game series, Tom Wilson was changing the momentum all by himself in that third period. And he can do that. I don't know if they need to address that specifically, but I would like to get another score because their power play contributed to this win today, not in the way you would think because they were 0 for 6.
Yeah.
But over the last several games, they've been using the power play to get back where it is. I think they had 8 goals in the last 7 games on the power play today, not so much. You're going to need scorers.
No doubt, but I like that they beat a really good team on the road at even strength, that they could go into Washington's house in 5-on-5, get the better of things. By wild and crazy, Bob, I guess I mean, you know, Chris Kreider is going to be the player that the other contending teams want. And when that happens, the price goes up. And if I'm Jim Rutherford, I don't want to fall victim to that where I do whatever it takes to get this guy.
All right, we'll see.
He's a nice player.
It doesn't necessarily have to be him. It could be. There are other guys out there. We'll see.
But he's looked at as the big.
I understand.
He's the player du jour.
But he also doesn't have the best reputation as far as a chemistry guy. And Jim Rutherford has made, Jim Rutherford has made it a point to change that part in this offseason, which is why he brought in Tanev. He thought he was a good guy in the locker room as well as an energy guy. We'll see. It's going to be interesting going down the stretch, but they do have a team that's certainly capable of winning it all. Let's go to the lines. Pete in Squirrel Hill, first caller tonight. What's up, Pete? Welcome.
Hey, Pete.
Gentlemen, how are you tonight?
We're good.
Hey, Bob, 2 things about this Super Bowl. Number 1, you mentioned a great human interest story, Andy Reid winning the title, considering the personal tragedy in his life. And not many people know one of the first people to reach out to his family, Bob, when he lost his son, was Kobe Bryant. So you believe in karma and higher powers at work. About the game, Bob, number 33 for the Niners, the pass interference in the end zone on Kelsey. Bob, high school, college, does it reach a point where these guys are just not coachable? They don't understand the fundamentals of the position. If he turns his head and looks for the ball, Bob, he intercepts and they win the game.
Yeah, that was an obvious call. Thanks, Pete. That's a good point. That was a big play in that.
Yeah.
There's also one with Kittle.
Well,
with the offensive
I got two thoughts on that Kelsey play. The first one is I don't like when bad throws get rewarded with face guarding. So that's underthrown, it's low, but because the guy's back is turned, the offense gets rewarded.
But Kelsey could have made the catch, though. It's a difference. It's a catchable ball.
Yeah, I guess. Barely, though.
But it was right. He had it around his waist.
My other issue with the play is 2 consecutive plays there, the pass interference, and then when Kelsey scores the touchdown. How is he matched up against a backup defensive back, and how is he wide open in the end zone? He's Travis Kelsey. He's not Xavier Grimble. You know what I mean? Like, how does that guy get so wide open?
Yeah,
I'm befuddled by that.
I thought the same thing with the touchdown pass specifically, because there was nobody near him. And you think that's one of their first options.
Yeah.
In the red zone, he has been a touchdown maker for them. All right, let's go out to Rich in Scott Township. Rich, welcome to the Sports Call. How you doing?
Good, gentlemen. I'd like to talk about tight ends and the Steelers.
All right.
Tight ends dominated the playoffs tonight.
The halftime show, too, but that's another story. Go ahead.
Steelers need to trade up for a first-round pick and draft a tight end.
We've been saying that all along. They need one. And going into this game, those two guys played significant roles. I think the Steelers need a playmaker and also somebody like a George Kittle who can do it all. He's a great blocker as well.
Absolutely. Now, last year's draft was the draft for first-round tight ends. Both of those Iowa guys were first-round picks. Hawkinson and Fan. Every draft board I've seen, Bob, has the first tight end going in the second round. So, great question by Rich, but I don't think the Steelers actually have to move up to get their tight end in this draft.
They need other things as well. The offensive line, I think if you watch San Francisco all throughout this season, you see the importance of having an offensive line that can do some of the things to open up holes. And those guys are athletic. They made it a point when John Lynch got there to do that. Let's go out to Joanne in Ross Township. Hey, Joanne, how are you?
Joanne.
Welcome to Sports Call.
Oh, I'm great, Bob. Great Super Bowl. I want to know I'm thankful for Andy Reid and the Chiefs. It was super win. I want to know what's with that paper, the confetti that they're shooting around all the time. It's so terrible. You can't even see the people and the interviews after the game.
Now, they've done that in the last how many Super Bowls? It's not something new. They've done it after a lot of them.
What I want to know is what happens to the 49ers confetti that they have up there? They just throw it out? It's just a waste?
How about if
it never gets used?
How about if they have a confetti malfunction and hit the wrong button?
and the gold and red confetti
comes down. It's almost the same, though. I mean, the colors to this year were what did you think of that halftime show? I like entertainment.
Provocative.
It was a little over the top
Yep.
from that point of view. I mean, but I thought the entertainment level was terrific. I think J-Lo at age 50 and Shakira at age 43 certainly have a lot of energy and talent and can still bring it.
So you didn't want more Terry Bradshaw? You didn't want to see that Fox?
Did you?
Chris Myers break down the first half? Okay.
We're going to take a break. We have more calls on the way. This is 412-575-2600. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here live on Pittsburgh CW.